Well, my dear Bulas and Beras, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It is a lovely Monday morning over here, very dark and gloomy right now, but plenty to talk about on Bitcoin. Want to follow up on the short-term timeframes, also the long-term timeframe look as well, as we do have the new weekly close in and solidified, and then set up for all of the other fun things to come, as pretty much all the world markets right now are in complete, well, I wouldn't say complete, but they are in concert. Yes, that's the word that we're looking for. Anyways, with that said, I would like to wish you the best of the best and the happiest of the happiest, because we could use more of that today, especially when everything seems so divided. Why can't everyone just realize we're all on the same fucking team now, aren't we? Anyways, looking at the Krown Chain application over here, which can be found at app.krownchain.net, we see actually a couple interesting things going on right now. Open interest did come up from yesterday to today, back up to that 2.5 billion marker as Bitcoin does reclaim the mid of the $15,000 region, of which that's going to be big focus on right now, which is suggesting that what we saw over the weekend was essentially longs taking profits when the price action came down and open interest came down and volume was coming down. And then as Bitcoin does reclaim the range, essentially just testing the low side of it and then popping back up, then we see open interest popping back up, or going up in unison with it alongside volume as well. So what does that suggest? It suggests that people were first taking profits and then second putting them back on as the real trading week begins. I imagine that's probably going to be a lot of the focus today. Looking at the Bitcoin dominance, what do we see? We do see it popping up a little bit more from yesterday to today as well, back up to almost 64.5%. I believe yesterday was about just below 64 and a quarter, of which still plays into long-term narrative that yes, I am looking for most alts to not be having the best time versus Bitcoin, but I need to be very clear here, because I read through the comments and I think a lot of people mistake my views on the Bitcoin dominance with the value of whatever shitcoin versus USD, and that's not the case at all. If Bitcoin dominance is going up, that does not mean that the US dollar valuation is going to be going up or down. It just means that the comparison, the relationship to Bitcoin, will be going down, of course. So with that in mind, looking at your Satoshi valuations, that's essentially what's going to let you know in that regard. And yes, I would be massively bearish on most altcoins versus Bitcoin. Doesn't necessarily mean that I'll be bearish versus them versus US dollar. In fact, if Bitcoin's going to be going up, it would be actually, historically speaking, very unwise to do such things. Anyways, looking at the fear and greed index, also popping up about 8 points from yesterday to today on 82 read all the way up to a 90 once again. So we once again are within the extreme greedy zone. This is a bit of a cautionary tale, but as we're going to talk on price action, I actually do think that it gets another try to the upside here, and it's probably going to be a trappy trap. Anyways, into the data tab we go. We're looking for some parrots in this gold mine and see what the fuck they're barking in my face right now. And yes, we do see fear and greed index just ticking back up to those levels that we haven't seen in a very long time, right here, right now. But more importantly, looking at the funny rate now, we do see a lot of exchanges creeping up here. They're getting close. They're getting very, very close. FTX posting 0.08%, funny rate, Bybit posting 0.05%, and Femex 0.04%, and Deribit 0.05%. Again, still not exactly where I want to be seen. Or not where I want to be seen, but still not exactly where we typically do see major local highs identified, but it is getting damn close. Above 0.1 or below negative 0.1 is typically where we do see major warning signals being signaled. Use a bad and redundant term, but you know, again, putting all these things into consideration together, looking at the fear and greed index, looking at this, and then what we're going to look at on price action, I do still think that it is a cautionary time. Although what we're going to see is, as we go into our first chart right here, is that I actually do think that Bitcoin will be making a new high, probably even this week, on top of this new run. So with that in mind, going over here, starting off with the secondary charts today, because this is what I really do prefer to be looking at. Let's go in my crypto charts right here. For long-term trends in this case, I actually do think, or it's not that I think, what Bitcoin did do yesterday on both spot and CMEs is close a nice girthy green dildo above the topside Challenger band. And in this case right here, yes, I would be looking for new highs on this run just based off that. But as I've been saying before, we are in a historical critical area coming in all the way back from the bull trap of January 2018. This is really important stuff over here, mostly because these are just the last two historical areas that we really even have to reference before Bitcoin goes into the great void, you can call it. But yes, you know, it's going to be right around here in the mid $16,000 region, and then right around here, just around 19,000 bucks as well. Those are the last 2 points of reference. I would not use any lower timeframes than that, because realistically, Bitcoin's not even really spent all that much time here to begin with. 1 month is extremely small, and any time frame below weekly is just unlikely to beget any sort of real results. So in this case right here, I would be looking for new highs on this run. We are likely to see momentum also just fall through as well. Weekly MACD still pointed nice and erectly to the north side. Weekly DMI actually still strengthening. However, I would be cautious within this region. It's gonna be hard to keep this momentum up as it stands right now. So I need to be very careful with the way that I relate these ideas, because while I am looking for a new high in this run, probably into the mid $16,000 region, I also am looking for that to probably be the next major high before Bitcoin does play one of those more nasty pullbacks, whether it be 25 to 30%, something like that, down, maybe even all the way back down to 12,000 or 11,500, as that would be kind of within the vicinity. But for right now, yes, momentum still remains the upside, it looks like, and I would be looking for new highs on this run on this week, and that is also consistent with what we see across all major markets actually. So it's good to see that the world markets are in concert right now. And let's go to our regular charts over here. Hey, get the fuck out of my face. And I forgot to mention this as well. We actually are brushing up against the 236 fib right here as well. This is a fib taken all the way from the ultimate high at 20,000 bucks to the ultimate low at 3,100 over here. And while I would expect Bitcoin to kind of chop around here and get a few wicks above, again, this is a nice stopping point. I also do like how it is essentially correlated with what we see over here. Again, that great bad bull trap of January 2018. Before, again, here's the reference, by the way. This bull trap led into almost an immediate dump in price action over the next 3-4 weeks of 64%. Now, keep in mind, we're looking at a weekly, so each and every one of these dildos does represent 1 week of price action. So realistically, this is going to take some time if Bitcoin does put in a high right here. But I would just have a bit of caution kind of coming within this region, because it's now time to start, at least in my opinion, looking for potentially a healthy pullback relatively soonish. There's a lot of exuberant irrationality going on in the market right now, and if that's for good reason. Bitcoin's had pretty much a $6,000 run without any real pullbacks, on a higher term time frame. And to put that in perspective, percentage wise, that's 57.5% from where we kind of started to where we are right now. So I do think that it'd be very much irrelevant to say that this is pretty fucking good here, pretty fucking good. And while I'm not saying that the macro run is done, in fact, I'd say far from it. I think that the macro run is actually just getting started here, to be quite honest with you. Especially, I mean, how could you say that it's not when you're still below your last prior high? However, these markets do take time, and realistically, we're looking at probably like a 2 to 4 year horizon here when you're talking about like an actual cycle. So for right now, yes, short-term timeframes probably do have a little bit more to go. I'd imagine, if I had to guess right now, short-term timeframes probably are going to be more bullish on the whole. And going back on over here, and hey, god damn it, get back onto my damn crypto list. There we go. Okay, sweet. Let's pull this baby back up right here as well. Yep, there we go. And I want to follow up on yesterday's short-term time frame analysis. So yesterday we did say that if we got a 4-hour or even a 2-hour or 4-hour delta closure above 15.1, we would be looking for a move all the way up towards the next relevant resistance right around 15.7. We got that move. Hey, not bad, especially for a weekend, for a $600 move. I mean, that's Bitcoin for you, baby. That's fucking Bitcoin for you. So this weekend actually would have been quite nice to trade, because we got the move to the downside and the one to the upside. I mean, fair enough, man. Fair enough. I want to give a shout out to the people who are making a shit ton of money trading over the weekend, because nice one. Anyways, checking this out right here. Let's see what the momentum oscillators do suggest at the current moment in time. And we do have some hidden bullish divergence playing out on Caretaker's RSI. I'd say that the easy part and also the hard part of that move has already played out. We got that move from 14.9 all the way to 15.1. That's the easy part. Hard part's this one right here, but that was another $600 extension. Again, this is just Bitcoin magic right now. So I mean, I wouldn't always expect a reaction like that. We're just kind of at extremes right now. Looking at 4-hour Stokes, what do we see? Nice and erect to the north side, following the same trend line that we laid out yesterday as well, coming in all the way back. Oh, I guess I already have it in there. This bottom run right here is one that I'm referencing. This one is going to be relevant for the 12-hour, which we'll go to in just a bitski here. But yes, bouncing off it once again, back into the bullish control zone, looking good for some short-term upside. What about the 3-hour? What do we see right here as well? I expect to see more or less of the same. Yes, indeed, we do. What about the 3-hour RSI? Kind of chip chopping around the bullish control zone, but I'd actually look for this one to come down a little bit. It looks like as historical volatility percentile does contract a fair bit here on the lower term timeframes. Yeah, we already see on the 2-hour. By the way, I'm referencing the 4-hour in relationship to these, which is just redlining right now, but the 3 and 2 coming back off quite a fair bit does suggest that this contraction phase into consolidation is likely likely to be resolved with another try to the upside. But the problem is that should trader be immediately bullish based off this right now? Well, no, I would actually still look at this as an overall range, and I'd still only look at this as sort of the resolution to the upside at 15,750. Above there, yes, I look, I look for another extension, 500, 600 bucks to, I think the next target was about 16.2, maybe 16.4, somewhere around there. It comes off the top of my head, but we'll do it a little bit later. And by the same token, to the downside, can use this as a nice little pivot at 14.7, beginning continuation all the way down towards the $14,000 pivot right here for the short-term timeframes. But while we are on the short-term timeframes, like the buy hourly, what do we see on buy hourly stocks coming down a bit right now? So yes, we do see bifurcation between the 4 and 3 and then the 2, and that likely does align with filling out the range again to the downside actually. And looking at the hourly, I imagine that we're going to see the same thing right there as well. Yes, indeed we do, coming down right now. So if I had to call this right now, I do still stick with the range. I do still stick with the resolution areas of the range. However, just based off, the bifurcations that we see in the low term timeframes, I would be looking for this one to probably come back down and test somewhere in the low side of the range, somewhere around 15,000 or 15,100 first, and then I look for it to give another try back onto the upside. And I'd essentially have this disposition as long as Bitcoin holds this prior low right here. We'd even move it up if you want to be super aggressive with it, and it'd be something more like 14.9, but I don't really think that that's too appropriate, especially seeing as we got this horizontal already so close to it anyways, and it doesn't really change anything for the short-term time frame. Still, the ranges are as they will be, and more importantly, I would be looking for it to kind of, to kind of summarize some thoughts up here. I'd be looking for it to kind of oscillate a little bit more within this region. Probably does test the downside once again, but overall, maybe over the next few days, I would look for it to actually break above 15,750 and reach for the next proverbial target, which would be... Okay, so how do we want to do this? We can do this multiple ways. We can first look at the fib extension based off of this consolidation phase right here. We got the 3.618 right around 14.5. That does line up with, of course, that historical level that we spoke about coming in all the way from January here as well, and also the 236 if you're looking at a fib from the ultimate high to the ultimate lows we looked at earlier. And then I also want to match it up with a fib extension from this base that we're looking at. Is this the right one? Hold on, no, that's not what I want to be looking at. I want to be looking at this one. Yeah, there we go. Also could based off of this right here, and now we can come up with a nice little range. So anywhere between about, let's just make it 16.5, round it up a bit, just easier to say as well. Anywhere between there and the 1.414 on this extension right here, I would have a nice little liquid zone on. This is preemptively where I'm kind of going to be a lot more cautious, so to speak. So I want to have a nice big old blue box within this region, and I look for Bitcoin to very likely spike this region if and when it does take out 15,750, which is looking very likely like it does give a try towards that this week. The question to me is, when move, not when moon, but when move. And in this case right here, the areas are quite well documented. So I do like that, and these extensions all do essentially come in line with each other alongside these historical areas. So that is typically good confluence, and I would essentially be looking for it to play off that. I'm curious also if we see anything interesting from like a long-term volume profile read here. Let's see. Not really. Above 17,000, you can see that it does drop off the face of the cliff a little bit more once again, but I mean, it's already so low that it's just, we're already kind of within that same territory to begin with. Doesn't really make all that much of a difference, so fair enough. I'm not really getting too much more from that we already haven't spoken about, but yes, for right now, I am still short-term, medium-term, and long-term bullish. The thing is though, I'd be looking to switch my short-term and medium-term bias to bearish, and keep the long-term and in macro bias to bullish soonish. So, Jesus Christ, man, there's too many issues here. It's getting confusing, man. Getting too damn confusing in the early morning hours. But yes, not really much more to talk about on the lower term timeframes than that. We can go back and now go over the medium term timeframes now and see what they're aligning with. The 12-hour actually looks like it wants to go right here, right now, to be fair. Right in above the 10 simple after having that reset down to the 21 over the weekend. Classic fucking shit. So if anything, this one's saying, no, we will very likely actually try higher first before filling out maybe back down to 15,000. Again, I don't have a strong opinion on this one, but the 12-hour would essentially be saying that 12-hour stokes are technically down right now, but But remember, we do have this trend line coming in here that has been holding up all these lows, going all the way back to late September, by the way. And that's all the major lows within these consolidations before these nice moves to the upside. More importantly, right now, it actually is looking like the 12-hour Stokes do want to give maybe one more stint to the upside. And then I'm really looking for likely that next sort of breakdown. And what you're going to see very, very likely is you're going to see it actually, you're probably going to see it pop back up a little bit. And then when it comes back down and breaks this trend line right here, that's at the point when it really does start to initiate that more long-term pullback, as we will no longer be doing what we've seen, throughout this whole segment right here, going from about 10,000 where we are right now to about 16,000 bucks. So all these things work together right now. We also do have bearish divergence in play here too, although I'd say that move's likely played out. That was more than $1,000 move from 15.7 all the way down to 14.2, and I imagine that what we're probably going to get is a third drive of divergence, and that's likely going to mark off your next high. So that also would obviously come with new highs on this front again as well. So again, fitting it all together, still essentially plays with each other, and historical volatility percentile starting to really get extreme here. And in that case, I would be looking for that contraction phase to come with more downside within this greater range. Looking at 12-hour Joule, yes, we did get a nice signal this weekend. It actually did kind of play with the same bearish divergence signal, to be fair, but we don't see the same thing on CMEs just yet. It will be lining up very likely this week. It's giving a warning signal. It gave a warning signal, I think, 2 weeks ago, and it's in the process of giving another warning signal right now. But I want to see it line up for a perfect sell signal, and that probably again aligns with a little bit more upside first, and then we actually do see it play out. Back on to my spot price action right here. Let's go over to the daily. What do we see on the daily? Daily Stokes probably gonna be coming down if I had to guess. Yes, indeed they are. Again, it's consolidated at high levels right here. I don't have any major problems with it. Daily Joules also giving warning signals as well. You're getting your first soft sell, but that's again, I want to see the perfect one. The perfect one very likely will be coming. It will very likely line up sometime later this week, maybe next week. So fair enough. And back on, let's go back onto this one because I'm not seeing anything different on CMEs. Anything with daily RSI, again, long term, very good, very, very good long term. I really, really love this chart long term. Short term though, I would be looking for this one, or sorry, medium term, I would be looking for this one to likely break down, back down somewhere around the edge of the bullish control zone at the very least. Let's see what the 2 days printing right now as well. Do you know what the 2 days printing? Yeah, the 2 days looking like continuation here, to be fair. Just based off structure, but not much else. What about the 3 day? Yeah, we're looking at continuation here first. So if I have to call it, I'd be looking at continuation first, somewhere into the mid $16,000 region, maybe even as high as $17,000. It's very possible. You don't know where these stray wicks are going to land when things get highly volatile. That's more a job of the good old liquidation engine. That feature of most of these major exchanges, which who knows where the fuck they place those wicks sometimes. But more importantly, that's the caution area. So we're very, very close, very fucking close, but still a little bit more in my opinion. And then it's time to really be looking for potentially another long-term, maybe even macro entry. At which point, I'd reference this weekend's video. As usually, I focus on more long-term price action there, but I'll briefly go through it right now. Bitcoin just has a nice, lovely history of playing off that weekly 21 exponential average. I'm not going to take everything off right now. Actually, it's going to take too long, but it's a yellow moving average. You can essentially see that it plays off that on all these bullish dumps for these bullish markets. Anytime that Bitcoin is both above that, plus it has a positive slope, there's your bull market. And same thing, and vice versa to the downside, by the way, too. But you can see, during the years like 2015 to 2018, it does like to dump all the way down to the 21. And these are all, pretty phenomenal pullbacks, and they take about a month to a couple months to happen most of the time. This one about a 23% move right there. This one about a 40% move right there. This one about I'm using Wix for this, by the way, 35% move right there. This one another 34.5% move right there. And this one another 34, almost 35% move right there. You get my point. You can do this yourself, and there's plenty more to do. However, I'm just curious what that would kind of align with. Maybe we do see something similar. Let's say we do play at that pullback somewhere from here, and we were to shave off 25% to 30% off this price action, just to get an idea. And 25% would actually put us back down around $12,500. Interesting, isn't that? Because that is essentially your long-term macro breakout area. If we were to extend that a little bit further down to the 21 exponential average, which by the way, that's 30% down. Well, that's pretty much par for the course on the pullbacks that we have seen. So I do think that anywhere around 11.5 to 12.5 thousand bucks, I would be looking for on a long-term pullback. But it's going to take time. It's not like it's just going to spike up here and then on the same week come down. It's not even going to happen next week. It'd probably take. I mean, let's just reference history for a second here. This one took 6-8 weeks. This one over here took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's about 2 months. This one over here took 3 weeks. This one over here took 3 weeks. This one over here took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. I mean, that's a month and a half. These don't happen in the snap of a fucking Nicholas Martin's fingers. It takes time. So I'd be looking for things to kind of like spike within this region and then, play around there for a little bit of time and then initially kind of come down slowly and then a bit of a washout move. Remember, it's now the priority of the market to be liquidating the longs rather than shorts because there's just not many shorts to be liquidating at this moment. No one's taking short positions on something that broke above macro resistance except for degenerate gambler traders, but those guys don't have the bankroll to really be producing any sort of like rocket fuel of liquidations. It's the big boys that do, and they're very unlikely to be short. At least that's what the data shows thus far. So as it is right now, yeah, it does still kind of play all around with each other, but I'm curious if there's anything else that I'm missing here. Now I think we'll just go on to the secondary charts once again. I'm wondering if there's anything of interest on the short-term time, or sorry, like a daily. No, not really. Not anything that we already haven't seen. I mean, the topside trailing band obviously lining up with the 4-hour or 2-hour resistance. Maybe even looking at a 4-hour right here, it actually does show immediate pressure to the upside here as well. Actually, 4-hour does say that we do move up before trying the downside of the range. But if we do try the downside of the range, it would be about 14.8 to 14.9 is where I'd be looking towards. 4-hour MACD would be really, really powerful here too. If we see two of two things actually 3 of 3 things would be amazing. But even 2 of these would be good enough. 2-hour or 4-hour total closure above 15,750. That's obviously the big one. Next, I want to see MACD cross the upside on the 4-hour. Momentum turning up as you break a nice horizontal. That's usually a winning formula. DMI also, if we saw in this is 3 of 3. This one's not as important, but I'd imagine it's gonna work with it anyways. Like, it would be very bizarre if it did not. If you see the DMI plus start to turn back up again, remain dominant, which it currently is, and you see the ADX strengthening on the next few ticks, that'd be a damn good signal that yes, indeed, we are going to see that next move up, probably somewhere within the mid to low $16,000 region first, and then come back. And I'm curious if we have any sort of formations here. If we have any sort of formations going on right now. No, not really. At least not as it is. Let's go back to this time frame right here. So yeah, essentially I'd have this area marked off right here. I'd have specific interest on the area between about 14,250 and 14,4. Oh my God. My numbers, man, my dyslexia is devastating today. 16,250 all the way to 16,450. Those are the areas that I am talking about. All right, sweet. There we go. And did we talk about, yeah, we talked about the resolution points. We talked about the time frames. 2-hour, 4-hour close above here, 2-hour, 4-hour close below here. Some nice $500 to $600 moves spun upon those, and let's now go into traditional markets. This one's really fucking important right now. Traditional markets, we were looking at last week's closure to kind of denote whether we're going to see new all-time highs or not coming in these next couple of weeks. We got the closure that we were looking for. So what happens now? Oh baby, girthy green dildos in my face. Love it, fucking love it. And look at that. Before the real trading day even starts with the opening of the New York Stock Exchange, we already have actually see it approaching the prior all-time highs. So again, I'm not saying this to like toot my own horn or anything like that. It's just we got the closure that we're looking for. Very, very simple stuff. Back above the last, actually closed on new all-time highs, by the way, just for reference. I'd not just be looking for it to retest the prior all-time high at about 12.5. I'd be looking for new all-time highs coming in this week. Do I have targets to base upon this? Actually, yes, we could, based upon this weekly formation right here. Nice little, I mean, people call these different things. It's essentially a triangle of sorts, but I guess I already have it in there too. But it's also, I mean, you could there's technically a name for this one. I think it's like the Flying W, but I don't really give a fuck about it. Anyways, more importantly, measure move would be pointed towards about 13,150. That's also the 2-spot fib extension right here as well. So these things likely playing together. I do think that's a little bit more of an aggressive read. I could also take the breakout point from right here, and that would create a range between about 12.9 and 13.1, which I think is a little bit more appropriate for right now. I don't think it's, I do think that we are kind of in like a weird political time and a lot of uncertainty still kind of going abound. It sounds like Trump's gonna sue for the presidency or whatever the fuck, or who knows how this one gets resolved. I don't want to even care, but unfortunately, because these markets are politically infused now, and we got Trump analysis, well, you kind of have to care, I guess, a little bit. So, in the short term, yeah, we are going to be brushing up against the 12.5 region right here. It's just your prior high, and I would be looking for maybe a short-term pullback from there. But ultimately, yeah, I would be looking for these targets to get hit somewhere around, let's just call it $13,000, give or take $100, and looking good. And I'm curious what the lower-term timeframes do look like. It looks like, it looks good. So yeah, I would be looking for a very short-term pullback when it retests the prior high, but that pullback very likely to be bought. Weekly is good for continuation. Daily is good for continuation, and this is a hard chart to hate right here. I'm very much fucking bullish on this one. I'm sure someone's going to call a double top. I've almost never seen double tops work out for like a prolonged reversal. For a short-term reversal, yes. If you're looking at an hourly, yeah, probably does work out. If you're looking at a weekly, probably not. At least in my experience, very unlikely. Anyways, going back on into SPY futures, I imagine we see the same thing here too. And yes, indeed. And I'd say the same thing here as well. I'd be looking for it to retest the prior all-time high, and I'd be looking for new all-time highs. And target on this one would be, let's actually just do one of these. It'll be a little bit easier. The 2-spot extension is going to be 37.50, so that would be akin to the $13,000 region on NASDAQ. And of course, interest on the 1-spot 414 here as well for maybe a short-term pullback. But ultimately, I'm looking for all these babies to kind of trade with each other and continue onwards and upwards. And we'll come back. I guess we'll just come back later anyways and check it out. But yes, traditional markets looking for some more upside this week. And I'll spoil the surprise on Forex. Pretty much the same shit as well. So there you go. And what else can we look at? I think we can look at, let's look at, do we want to look at some altcoins? Yeah, we can look at some altcoins versus dollar here. Yeah, Link got the close that we were looking for yesterday. Short term, does it trade back down towards like 11 3/4? Maybe yes, but long term, I'm looking for this one to give tries higher towards $16.50. This one looks pretty damn good. First target would be somewhere around 15, and then I look for a short term pullback there, and then extension towards 16.5. What about the low term timeframes right here? I don't have a strong opinion on this. If anything, on the short-term timeframes, I'd actually be looking for this one to come back down to like a little bit below $12 first, and then try some more upside. But long-term, weekly looks good. Got the closure that it wanted. And what about the daily here too? Daily looks like continuation. Daily, actually, I'd even have a short-term target back up towards $13.50. So looking good there. Link Marines looking strong, although I'm not so sure about your Satoshi pairing, but let's just forget about that one for now. But here's what I mean. I would be bullish on this chart, absolutely. On this chart right here, though, would I be bullish? Not really. If and when Bitcoin does start ranging, then yes. But for right now, let's see. What about Cardano? Oh my God, this is so fucking perfect. Just got a daily exponential moving average death cross right here, by the way. And more importantly, over the weekend, everyone was getting very excited about this move that we saw just a few days ago. And I said, hey, hold on, what's different about this move than basically any of these other failed rallies that we've seen in the past? It doesn't even register on a weekly. You can only see it on a daily, so it's even more pathetic. And this is my opinion on most altcoins. I mean, again, I'm not actually trying to just talk shit about altcoins. Like, it is for a reason. Most of these ones are going to be going back for the full retrace. All of these rallies get sold into. They're all failures. They're all terrible. They're all nothing. Fucking buck hiss, man. Link probably does the same thing too. Actually, this one does look like one straight up a little bit higher, but ultimately I'd look for it to come back down with everything else. It is one of the stronger ones, though, to be fair. It is certainly one of the more strong ones. What else do we want to look at? Mr. Buterol, where are you at? Where are you at, you little gigantic, amazing PCU? Probably putting in a local high here as well. I don't really have a strong opinion on the short-term timeframes, but the weekly, atrocious, just absolutely atrocious. I'm sure people are going to call this a hammer dildo. Nope, look at the volume right there. That might get you a short-term move back onto the upside, but I'm pretty sure that we just saw a macro high being put in right there. So maybe a little bit of a throwback here. However, I'd be looking for that one to be further thrown back, actually. Mr. Buterol versus dollar, though, phenomenal. I'd be looking for a pullback this week till like 430 or 430. Did I say that properly? Yeah, 430 or 435. But I'd be looking for that to be bought up, and I'd be having targets north of $500 over the next couple weeks. This is very good. Very, very good chart right here. Very, 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 very good chart. So most of the US dollar pairings that we've looked at thus far, which is only two, have been pretty fucking good. And I imagine that most alts can be of the same opinion here. So with that said, I think it's time for me to wrap this bitch up. We're gonna go back to Bitcoin over here. Let's go back down to the short-term timeframes. Again, short-term timeframe range, as Elsa listens and does the video, we have 15,750 to the upside, any sort of a 2-hour or 4-hour total closure above there, and I would be targeting moves towards about 16,250 to 16,450-ish region. However, that is the big cautionary area. Remember, that's where all of the weekly areas start to come in around. We do see that weekly Bollinger Bands are suggesting that we do get upside continuation here as well. However, historically speaking, this is where our last major bull trap did happen in 2018. Of course, it is lining up with some fib extensions right here as well, so it's going to be a natural algo target. And on top of that, I do believe that we had one other thing within there, maybe like a daily topside Bollinger Band here too. Nope, actually that's a little bit lower, to be fair. So fair enough. Actually, that is going to be just about it, I suppose. Maybe actually the 12-hour will be right around 16.2-ish region. But yes, several points of confluence right there, and I would be looking for that area as kind of like an area of caution. I'd also be looking for Bitcoin to kind of spend some time within that region, but the next weekly closure is going to be absolutely critical to kind of judge whether we're likely to get further continuation on this run or not, and start to be looking for one of those greater pullbacks, which again is probably going to take weeks to really occur. It's not going to happen like that. It's not going to happen this week, or it's very extremely likely to happen this week. Extremely likely to happen in just any singular week in general. It's probably going to happen over the course of a month or two, historically speaking, and by the same accord, I should be talking about the very short-term timeframes right here. I'd still be using a 15.1 in the same way that I did yesterday, essentially governing moves to both sides of the greater range on the short-term timeframes. So a break back down below at 15.1 on a 2-hour closure. I would be looking for another move back down to 14.7. However, 14.7 still being the base of this formation as it is right now. If we do start to break it, I would look for an extension down towards 14,000 bucks even, and then we can talk about greater pullbacks maybe sooner rather than later. But I don't think that that's what's happening right now. If I have to give my full opinion on it, I think that Bitcoin likely plays within this region a little bit more, and then the second that we get a closure above here, I'm targeting moves towards 16, let's just call it 16.3, 16.4 region, and then we'll come back a little bit later and see what is up. So with that said, I'd like to wish you the best. Once again, take care, and until next time.